We're going to get straight into a couple of questions and we'll have a bit of a chat and see how that goes. And the first thing that I'm really interested in are kind of what are psychosocial hazards and do they matter? Erika, can you maybe briefly explain what psychosocial hazards are?
Absolutely. So I'm going to be using the ComCare definition initially, and psychosocial hazards are aspects of work which have the potential to cause psychological or physical harm. So they're typically ongoing stressors that we do experience in the workplace. And when we are looking at psychosocial hazards, it's really about looking at the interactions. So it's not just the one element, i.e., we might have a lack of role clarity or what have you. It's really about the interaction of these issues. Are they ongoing and are they likely to then cause either psychological or physical harm to our employees? Really important to note that stress is not classified as a psychosocial hazard per se, but there's various aspects which, if interacting, they can, such as workloads, lack of job clarity, poor manager or colleague support, inadequate change management, organisational culture and or interpersonal relationships, all of which, if they do conspire in a particular way, may cause harm to an employee.
Thank you, Erika. Excellent. And we understand that employers are liable if someone physically hurts themselves in the workplace, depending on certain things. Steve, what's the legal position at the moment when it comes to psychosocial hazards in the workplace?
Yeah, I think, certainly we've always had a pretty strong position, I think, in Australia about safety at work and the importance of employers providing a safe workplace. And perhaps what's shifting a little bit at the moment is that sense that safety doesn't just mean physical safety, it's also psychological safety. And we're seeing the relevant authorities in different states start to talk more about, look, we're going to look hard at psychological safety in different workplaces. And we're also, again, I don't want to make this a political discussion, but I think given the fact that we now have Labor governments in at federal and state level largely throughout the country, that we're now seeing a focus, as you'd expect, given Labor's background, on workplace issues, including workplace safety, including psychological and psychosocial issues. So we're seeing, I think, that move from a more generic look, obviously everyone needs to be safe at work, to more specific requirements on employers to say, look, in order to satisfy your obligations, you're going to need to demonstrate that you've done these kinds of things to address physical issues and also psychosocial issues in the workplace.
And are you seeing that being reflected in your workloads? You do lots of investigatory work. Are you seeing that change?
There's definitely been a shift, I think, over time in terms of what the issues are that are arising in the workplace and the issues that, whether it's employees individually or collectively are raising, are issues about how they're being treated. And I think Erika mentioned a couple about workloads, about role clarity, and about the behaviour of their colleagues, and the impact it's having on them psychologically, but also the impact, I think we're seeing more people say, look, I'm having a physical effect as well. So my lack of workplace clarity has affected me psychologically. And also I've been to my doctor and my doctor's reporting that my blood pressure is elevated. My risk of heart attack is now elevated because of these risks. So I think it's important to understand that we're talking about psychosocial issues, but they have both a mental health impact and they can also have a physical health impact. And I think we're seeing those two things being linked more often now to these events are happening in the workplace and it's not okay.
Yeah. And I think the vast majority of us know somebody or even ourselves have experienced psychological challenges in the workplace and how they can manifest into physical issues.
Yeah, and I think I think we all accept work can be stressful, that's fine. No one's suggesting that work has to be entirely stress-free, and it would be seem impossible for it to be that way. But it's about taking steps to try to minimise it and not make the effect unreasonable, I think is really what it's about.
Yeah, fantastic. Thank you. And Michelle, obviously you work a lot with leaders. Why should they be paying attention?
Leaders are right at the front of this, and there's some research that's come out recently that suggests that for 70% of people, your leader has as a bigger impact on your mental health than your doctor or your therapist can, and equal to that of your partner. And so what that's going to mean for leaders is that they're going to need to be more engaged in conversation with their people and be more mindful of, what is impacting their people today and engaging in two-way flow of conversation. And I'm not saying here that they need to be accountable for their people's mental health, but what they do need to be is a lot more aware of what's going on in the workplace and have conversations and be able to spot and refer, but also have conversations about things like workload. Steve mentioned that, a workplace doesn't need to be completely stress-free, because stress can actually add an element of great productivity, but there is a balance to be struck, and they're the conversations that leaders need to be skilled at having.